So hello, Mark. Welcome to the Rowover Podcast. And could you just introduce yourself quickly to people that aren't quite sure who you are yet?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Who am I? I'm Mark. Um, I'm a YouTuber. It's probably I was going to say it's probably the best description. It's literally what I am. It still sounds weird to say it though. So a couple of years ago, I started a YouTube channel, or at least the YouTube channel I started a couple of years before that started to be watched by a couple of people, and then in the last 2 years, it just went from being watched by hardly anybody to being watched by enough people to quit my job and just do YouTube full time. So I just make YouTube content, mainly about health and fitness stuff. But I'm not a health and fitness. I kind of shy away from. Well, I don't shy away. I vigorously force myself away from calling myself a fitness YouTuber. I am a YouTuber, and it just so happens that I make content about health and fitness stuff because that's what I'm doing. But I'm not a fitness YouTuber. And part of me says that because I don't want people to think, oh, I can give great advice and stuff, because I'm not qualified in any sense to do that. And also part of me detests 99.9% of fitness YouTube. And so I don't want to be associated with it anyway. So that's me. I'm a miserable old YouTuber by the sounds of it.
Well, I guess let's get started by talking about a bit of your journey. So, big part of your brand is the above average, and I guess if you're watching the video, you can sort of see that just behind Mark there. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how that started?
Yeah, I should turn the neon on behind me. Yeah, above average. Well, so when I started doing my fitness content, in fact, actually, to kind of go back a bit before that, when I started my YouTube channel originally, which I just started kind of mucking about with one of my kids, he said, let's do a YouTube channel. So I started it, and I thought, well, what am I going to film? And I thought, well, I'll film me motorcycling, because I happened to be motorcycling at the time. So it was basically just me riding my motorbike around. I say riding it around. I went to Africa and I did some pretty cool stuff with it. So that's what it was. It was me motorcycling, and then I stopped doing that, and I started doing some Spartan obstacle course races and some running. And I thought, well, I'll film that instead. Again, not because I had any expertise in it. It just happened to be what I was doing. So when I thought, what should I film this weekend? Well, it's either, washing the car or doing a Spartan race. So I filmed that, and that seemed to, it certainly did better than the motorcycle stuff. And it kind of dawned on me that I was becoming a sort of a running, or at least predominantly running, but kind of generic health and fitness lifestyle type YouTuber. And when I looked at what other people doing that type of content were doing, they were pushing a sort of, be the best version of you that you can be, and or even more extreme. If you're not an absolute savage, then you're not. What's the point of even existing, and all this kind of rubbish. And I thought, actually, for me, this was just personal to me, but in my late 40s, as I was then, I'm 50 next month. I thought, actually, all I want to do is be better than most people. So if I go and do anything, doesn't matter what the event is, and it doesn't even matter if it's sporting or not, I just want to be better than average. So if I go and do a park run or a half marathon or whatever, and there's 500 people in it, and I come in the top 250, then I'm content. And if I come much higher, that's great. But I don't need to. Like, why? I just don't need to. And equally, if I'm in the bottom half, then it gives me, it doesn't necessarily create a problem, because there's some things that I just can't do. So for example, if I took up ballet, I wouldn't expect to be in the top half, and it wouldn't worry me that I wasn't. But on something like running, which strikes me as a fairly sort of fundamental skill everyone should have, or ability everyone should have, unless there's obvious reasons why you can't, to be in the bottom half, as I was when I started running, isn't something I wanted to be. So I kind of concluded, okay, above average, that's where I need to be. And I just mentioned it in a couple of videos. I just said, hey, my park run time is now above average, and I'm delighted with that. And people kind of came back to me. I mean, it's often the way people think that your catchphrases and your cool one-liners are things that you can come up with yourself. I've said this before. It's like people that think that Navy pilots get to call themselves, Maverick and Iceman and stuff. That isn't how it works. You just kind of get labelled with a name that's just appropriate for you, that your colleagues come up with. So they're more often called, whatever, dumbhead or something. So people told me, they said, hey, that above average thing is really cool. I'm going to try and be above average too. And so before I knew it, it went from something that I just kind of mumbled in a video without giving it much thought to actually being something that really resonated with people, and I was getting thrown back to me. And I thought, well, let's lean into that then, and let's kind of, because that does actually make a lot of sense. That if everybody, and the reality is, if everybody tried to be above average, average would move up, and it wouldn't work. But not everybody, unfortunately, listens to my YouTube channel. So if everyone that listened to my YouTube channel tried to be above average, that wouldn't skew the figures at all, because there's not enough of them. So they can all do that. Everybody could try and be above average if they want to be. But it's very, very simple to do. I mean, in any sport, if you apply yourself, all this kind, you need 10,000 hours to be an expert. But yeah, great. You don't need 10,000 hours to be above average. You just need to kind of get off your butt every now and again and go and do something. And so that was it. Yeah, it was just kind of giving people a target, if you like, that is really quite achievable, as opposed to telling people, no, you need to, get out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and do a nice bath for an hour, and then fill in your gratefulness journal and meditate and what? No, you don't. You don't need to do that at all. If you want, crack on, do it. That's great. But if you want to just think, do you know what? Amongst other 35-year-old dads in the school playground or whatever, I'm not in the bottom half of them. That's pretty easy to achieve.
Yeah. And is that something that you'd say you'd sort of applied to every part of your life, or is it mainly focused towards your sort of fitness journey, would you say?
No, every part of my life. In fact, as a good example, I said I turn 50 next month. I'm buying a guitar because I've always wanted to learn how to play a guitar. And the one thing I've learned when I turned 40, I wasn't in particularly great shape. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to be 40 and therefore life is over. It's just that there is anything that I wanted to ever achieve that I haven't yet achieved, that wipe it off the slate, because it's never going to happen now. You can't do anything at 40. It's just downhill. All I can do is try and hold on to what I already have. And that turned out to be complete nonsense. I know I can now do things at 50 almost that I simply couldn't have done at 40. I am better in so many ways. In every sense, whatever, work, relationships, health, fitness, the whole thing. So as I turn 50, I have no qualms whatsoever that picking up a guitar, I will be, by the time I'm 60, an above average guitarist. In the sense that if you took 1,000 random people in the street, even 1,000 random people that own a guitar, the majority of them they'll have bought a guitar and kind of played it for a week and then thought, oh, I can't bother, and it would just kind of sit in the corner of the room. That's the average guitar player. The average guitar player isn't, whatever, Clapton. So I do apply it in that sense. I believe that unless something kind of pops up and confronts me as a very real reason why I can't, chop my hand off, for example, in a freak rowing accident, then I might have to reconsider. But while I've got both my hands, yeah, I can start guitar and I can end up being above average in my mind. And there's probably people out there now going, well, statistically, that doesn't make sense. It's not about that. It's about a concept. It's about kind of believing that you can end up good enough to be content with where you're at. And you shouldn't worry that you won't be amazing. And you shouldn't either, the other end of the scale, you shouldn't either go into it pessimistically thinking you're going to be rubbish. Everybody should better think, I'm interested in doing that. There's no reason why I can't get good enough to be quite happy with how good I am at it, whether it's guitar, running, whatever, or your job. If your job sucks, I talked to my kid about this the other day. He's an adult kid, hates his job. Then quit your job. Go find another job. And it doesn't need to be a multi-million-pound paying job, but there's a job out there that will be for you, give you more contentment than the one you've got. You don't need to kind of settle. That's really what it's about. It's about not just kind of thinking, oh well, I don't have enough qualifications, or I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I'm too that, or no, if you apply yourself, you can get to a place of kind of severe contentment, and it doesn't need to be at the level that people are told they need to be at by YouTube experts all the time, which is, yeah, you need to be just, you know, a savage. The amount of idiots I see on Facebook reels and stuff telling me that you know, if I'm not absolutely, you know, crushing it, then I'm, you know, what's the point? And if you're not in severe pain, you're not growing. And what are they, you know, what are they talking about? You don't, that again, if you love that, if you want to be David Goggins, or you're David Goggins, crack on, enjoy it. But if you want to just go for a jog and not end up in severe pain, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's I like that. I like that quite a lot. Would you say that you approach all of your sort of I guess things that you want to do, so say the guitar, would you say you approach that with the same mentality and the same process as you would if you were going to learn to do Hydrox, for example? That's something that you've done in the past. Do you say you sort of go in with the same attitude and the same, I'm going to sort of take this step and this step and this step, or is it very different approaches?
No, it is a similar approach. In fact, one of the things that you can do nowadays that you never used to be able to do when I was younger is that through the internet, you can get a real good sense of where average is, or at least average is probably the wrong word in that sense. I mean, for example, if you want to do Hyrox, let's take Hyrox as an example. You can go on the internet and you can watch now hundreds of people that have put their content up on that, and you can watch it, and you'll see some elite people there. You'll see some, and interestingly, our Hyrox content is the most watched content on YouTube for that type of sport. And we're not elite, certainly not when me and my wife do it together. We are fairly average. So anybody watching that can see, and they can go, okay, I get the idea. I understand roughly what sort of times people are doing. You can go online, you can look that information up, and you can then give yourself a target. So, and the same with guitar. You know, I've already watched. I haven't even bought my guitar yet, but I've already watched loads of sort of transformation videos in guitar playing. So people upload themselves on YouTube, you know, here's me on day one, and it obviously sounds appalling, and here's me after a year, and they sound better. So I have a reasonable idea of what is achievable by some people. And I don't regard myself as being kind of substandard in any obvious way that might mean I can't become that good, average good. So yeah, so I do that. If I enter a new, I did a cycle ride last year. Actually, no, where are we? No, we're still this year. So it was the summer of this year, but I'd signed up for it last year. And I remember looking at it because I had no experience of doing cycle races. So I went online, I looked up the last couple of years' results. I saw what sort of times people were doing. I figured out what time I would need to be halfway or better, and just basically trained to make sure that I would be able to do that, and consequently went along, did the race, and was in the top half. So it's very easy nowadays with most things to get a real feel for what can be done, and then again, it's just about then setting your expectations appropriately. You know, you aren't going to be able to enter whatever Hyrox or your local half marathon and win it if you've only just started jogging. But there's no reason why you can't look at the last couple of years' results and think, okay, there was 500 people did it. I'm going to find person 250th. What time did they do it in? That's where I want to be. And again, as long as you are otherwise fit and healthy and so on, then crack on. There's your target. It's very, very easy nowadays. You know, back when I wanted to do stuff when I was a kid, you had the only people you knew were doing it were the kind of friends and stuff. You had no idea. You'd enter a race or a marathon or something, you wouldn't have a clue what other people did, because how would you know that? Same with rowing. The first time I ever used a rowing machine, I was very fast, but I had no idea I was very fast because I had nothing to compare it to. But nowadays, if some kid jumps on a rowing machine today and like I did, rows sub 6.2K, that they can go online and instantly be told. I mean, they can literally be told where they rank in the world at that moment. I mean, it's that information, and that information's there for most sports or most things. Even it's all out there to be had.
Yeah, and I guess talking about sort of goals and goal setting, that's something that crops up fairly regularly on your channel, things like can I beat Steve Redgrave's 2K, or more recently, can I beat the marathon record, was it?
Yeah,
And
Kipchoge's marathon time.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry, it was the park run record, was it, that you
Oh,
did
the park
recently?
run. Yes, I
Yeah.
tried. Yeah,
So
indeed.
sort
Yeah.
of those sort of goals, is that something that you'd recommend to people, or is that something that is more sort of for your content and enjoyment
No,
purposes, would you
I
say?
don't recommend those at all. No, I mean, the purpose of one of the things that I find, and this is just again, this is how my YouTube works. I a lot of people, I mean, I'm quite lucky, and I've come to YouTube off the back of a reasonably successful career. So I have the financial flexibility to do what I want with YouTube, and I don't need to kind of chase I don't need to kind of chase views and so on, and money ultimately in the way that some others might. So I just do things that I find interesting really on YouTube. And if they're watched by millions of people, that's amazing, but that's not my priority really. So what I've always found interesting is the gulf between really good people in anything and people that you think are quite good, but until you see them alongside someone that is truly good, you really have no idea. So, for example, park run's a good example. So, park run, if anyone doesn't know, it's a 5K every Saturday morning run, organized all over the world. There's park runs everywhere, all over the world. Great thing. You go along, you run for free, superb. I run that 5K park run in about 19 minutes, which is fast. I mean, there's just, whenever I put that on YouTube, somebody will go, well, that's not that fast. And, you know, in my school, you know, 4 kids in the track team, well, okay. But in the general population, it's quick. So if I go to a park run, there's 200 people there, I'll probably be top 10. Okay. So I'm very kind of pleased with that time. And most park runners, average park run time is about 28 minutes, would look at my time and think, whoa, that's just something else entirely to what I'm doing. And what I find fascinating is that when I then look at the guy who holds the park run record, a guy called Andy, with I forget what his time was, something insane, 14 minutes or something ridiculous. I look at that and think, whoa, hang on a minute. Everyone that's kind of looking at me and thinking, oh, you're so great. No, there is another level of eliteness that exists that is just, it's hard to comprehend, because if you run a 25-minute park run, you can look at me running a 19-minute park run and understand what I'm doing. You can think, okay, that guy's running 20, 30 seconds a kilometer faster than me every single time. You can comprehend what's happening there. But when you see somebody that's running, you know, almost twice the speed you're running, it's hard to get your head around exactly what's going on. So with those challenges, what I like to do is really kind of place myself between, or somewhere between what average people are doing and what elite people are doing. So on the rowing, for example, most people regard me as a very good rower. For someone that doesn't row, I'm just genetically, I fit a rowing machine quite well. But the gap between me and a proper rower, even someone that was rowing 30 years ago, because obviously Redgrave is no longer, his times from 30 years ago are not elite by today's standards. They're still staggeringly good, and a leap on from me. So I do those challenges to highlight, and predominantly just to highlight how good people are. What I'd love to see, for example, is in the Olympics, when you see, for example, 100 meters, what would be cool, and maybe they'll have it one day, is if they could have like a little hologram of a kind of an average person running alongside the 100-meter guys, because it looks like they're just running fast, and clearly they are running fast, but they're actually running at a speed that is incomprehensible to most people. The same with Kipchoge running his 2-hour marathons and so on. It looks like he's just a fast jogger, but he's actually traveling for 2 hours at a speed that most people simply couldn't sprint at for 20 seconds. He's just going. And so that's why we do those challenges, just to say, hey, you might think that the people you see on YouTube, people like me, are some sort of kind of elite level athletes. But the reality is, we might be quite good because we have all day to do it, but we aren't. And this is what elite does look like, and it's quite funny. It's just funny as well. I mean, that's the primary thing of my YouTube channel is if somebody watches a video and says, you know what, I couldn't care less about rowing or running or indeed anything you did, but man, it was funny. that awesome. I'd rather that than someone said it wasn't funny, but I found it fascinating. I mean, I'm not trying to make documentaries. I'm trying to make stuff that's a bit of a laugh. And it's funny to see someone. Oh, it's just funny to see someone struggle. I mean, just I mean, you go back, 100 years with comedy. It's you would see somebody fall over on a banana skin in a silent movie. That's just funny. So me falling off a rowing machine, gasping for air, is hopefully entertaining.
It's interesting you mentioned sort of backtracking a little bit there to sort of comparison of having sort of an average person next to the Olympics. I think it was a few years ago during the broadcast of the boat race, they actually got two teams of celebrities, and I think they got Redgrave and Pinson, I think it was, to basically coach these two teams and pit them up against each other as sort of a undercard, I guess, to the actual boat race. And they got people sort of like Jack Whitehall and things like that, so it had a bit of a comedy aspect to it. And do you think that sort of thing is a realistic thing that you could sort of put in media and in sporting events and things like that?
It is. I don't understand why. And for example, when I was a kid, you had superstars on TV. So superstars back in the day was kind of people from, it was typically great sports people, but then getting them to do other things. So you'd have like Daley Thompson, so Olympic decathlete, but you'd have him doing, I mean, some really kind of routine stuff like dips and press ups and stuff, but then also have a go at kayaking or cycling and so on. And so it did that. It showed it showed all sorts. It showed that specialism didn't mean that you were great at everything, because Daley Thompson wasn't a great kayaker, for example. When you had a great kayak person alongside, you could see. So there was a lot of that. I mean, to be honest, sport doesn't really play on TV nowadays. I mean, what's interesting is that I say it doesn't play on TV. What used to happen with superstars is that me and my brother, when we were like, whatever, 7, 8 years old, we'd watch it, and afterwards we'd have little competitions ourselves. We do like sit-up competitions and press-up competitions. We try to emulate what we just seen on TV. That sort of sport content doesn't exist. You now get, obviously, people singing and stuff, and you get your Simon Cowell type shows, Britain's Got Talent and so on. You get that instead. The sport that's on TV isn't anything to do with people being sporty. The average person watching their Sky football match with a tube of Pringles on the go they have no interest in sport whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. They're not watching sport because they have an interest in sport. They're watching it because they have an interest in seeing their team beat another team. They're watching it for that. So I mean, it'd be great to see more sort of that sort of stuff on TV, but it just doesn't work for some reason. I suppose because when you look at the statistics for people being out of shape, obviously it doesn't work. No one cares is the bottom line. And no one does care. I mean, that's the reality of it. Everyone that listens to my stuff and your stuff is obviously has an interest in this, and so they're probably thinking, no, there's lots of us care. Statistically, people don't. Statistically, the study just came out recently looking at the number of children that are overweight, and that the numbers are obscene. So no, kids aren't watching TV just then doing some press ups afterwards, because they probably can't do a press up. And don't want to. They couldn't care less. They don't dream about being a sports person. They dream about being, ironically, they dream about being a YouTuber. is what kids want to do now. They couldn't care less about sport. And if they do want to be a footballer, it's not because they want to play football. It's because they want to drive a Lamborghini. And it's so no. I mean, it's a pity. Sport doesn't play on TV. And when it does, they have to dress it up like the Gladiators is supposed to be coming back, isn't it? I mean, that just kind of, that to me sums up everything that's wrong with sport. If the way you get sport on TV in an entertaining way is by chucking gladiators, some of whom are literally IFBB pro steroid using bodybuilders as a means of entertainment on a Saturday night for kids. I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it'd be great to see sport on TV. The sort of thing you're talking about, having average people do stuff, I mean, marvelous. But I just don't think that TV companies think it plays well at the moment. It just, and they're probably right, unfortunately.
What sort of approach then do you think you could take to amend that, or do you think potentially it could just be it's the time to move onto YouTube and keep that content to YouTube and throw it at people that want it?
Yeah, I don't think you can fix it. I think we're screwed. I mean, is the bottom line. It's an interesting one because I've done a few podcasts where people have said to me, yeah, so I hear what you're saying about society and everyone being out of shape and especially now, I remember going into the COVID thing. So what was that? So early 2020, and I can remember thinking, one of the good things that's going to come from this is that we're all going to, because it was clearly evident quite early on that if you are, I mean, it's stating the obvious, isn't it? If you're unhealthy and you catch any sort of bug, especially a global pandemic one, you're going to have worse outcomes than if you're fit and healthy. That's pretty straightforward. And I can remember thinking, because I used to be very, very unhealthy. Back when I was in my sort of 20s and 30s, I was 23 stone, I weighed over 300 pounds. I was grossly out of shape. And I can remember thinking, wow, I'm quite glad that COVID has come along for me, selfishly, where I'm at a staggeringly low risk. I mean, I had personally no real concerns that there weren't athletes dropping dead from COVID. It just wasn't happening. But I can remember thinking, wow, if I was as big and heavy as I was back then, I would have a lot more concerns. So I can remember thinking this would be good, because what will happen is that governments and individuals, so from one end of the scale to the other, will all conclude we should be healthier, because this won't be the last time this happens. This will happen again. It's not the first time. It won't be the last. So we'll come out of it healthier and so on. And I had that thought for about 8 seconds, and then kind of gave myself a slap and said, no, absolute nonsense. We're going to come out of this worse shape. Everyone's going to sit at home, stuff themselves with pizza, and literally do nothing to improve their health. The government will do nothing to encourage them to improve their health. In fact, ironically, the government ended up giving away 2 burgers for 1, didn't they, at one stage? I mean, it was mind-boggling. And eventually the government will solve the problem, inverted commas, solve it by just saying, hey, here's what you need to do, whether it's whatever, wear a mask, take your shot, whatever it is, it will be government that saves us. It won't be any individual responsibility taken. And actually we'll come out of it worse. Because if you're out of shape today, and someone says to you, you're not worried about the next pandemic, well, no, I'll just do what the government tells me to do next time. As opposed to thinking, yeah, it was a bit touch and go. So I'm gonna not be grossly overweight, or I'm not gonna do no exercise. I'm not gonna live on burgers. So I get asked the question a lot. People say to me, well, okay, I get it. I hear that you're saying it's all a bit of a mess. What's the solution? And I say the same thing every time. I don't think there is a solution. I don't think there is. You need governments to do it. You can't rely on individuals to do it. You simply can't. And people go, no, it's individual responsibility. That's lovely. You can shout that from the rooftops, but that isn't how societies change. It has to come from someone kind of running the show, which is, like it or not, governments. If there isn't government incentive, then nothing. For example, smoking being on the decline, as it is massively, is only there because governments stopped you smoking. Basically, you can't smoke here, you can't smoke there. You want to smoke, it's going to cost you a fortune. That's all government driven. If the government had never said a thing about smoking, people would still be smoking at the rates they used to. So the government could fix it, or they could certainly improve things dramatically, but they appear to not care at all. I never see anything that the government does towards health, true health, and certainly improving health into old age, that isn't just kind of either knee-jerk nonsense or vote gaining. What they perceive to be vote gaining tactics. No one really cares. And why would they care? Because all politicians care about is being in power for the next X number of years, which is a short duration term, and health issues are long term. So the fact that in whatever 20 years' time, everyone's going to have diabetes, and it'll be costing, it'll be costing numbers that made the COVID budget look like peanuts. It doesn't matter, because no one that's in power today will be dealing with that. So governments couldn't care less. So I don't think you can fix it. I think what you can do is, as an individual, what I can do is I can have a YouTube channel, and I can have individuals contact me and say, Mark, that was great. I watched your video and I'm now motivated. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to lose 20 pounds or whatever. So in my little bubble, I'm quite content that my message gets out there and people respond to it. And in that little bubble, I'm very happy with what's going on. But I'm under no illusions that outside that bubble, which is where everybody else is, because I'm talking to a tiny number of people, they're all screwed. I mean, it's just a downhill slide. I see nothing that will alter the fact that people do less and less exercise, eat worse and worse. I don't see anything changing, certainly not in my lifetime. I'm 50. When I'm 100, I imagine I will be, it'll be exactly the same. That most 100-year-old people there'll be plenty of 100-year-old people, because we're able to keep people going longer, but there'll be an absolute mess because they'll have spent the last 50 years just continuing to eat terribly, not look after themselves, and all the things that go along with that, heart disease, diabetes, cancer rates, all of those things will continue to get worse and worse and worse. And nobody will care. So there you go, doom and gloom, I'm afraid. I mean, I see no evidence of it changing at all. Not. I mean, anyone that says no, here's why it's getting better, I'm all ears, because it doesn't appear to be the case. Not in the slightest.
I guess moving like with that a bit, if you were to say, here's an approach that we can put in place to get more people into sport, and say, for example, we want to get 50 people in every sort of community back into a rowing team or into a running team or whatever it is, how do you think you could sort of promote that and get people involved with that?
Well, I mean, if I was the government, and I wanted to have that happen, you throw money at it. It needs money. So, we have a local run that's organised near us. As people have, these sort of Saturday kind of 5K, 10K fun runs organised all over the country. And I know the person that organises it, and they've had to stop doing it because they can't get enough people. I say they can't get enough people. They get a couple of hundred people, but it's not enough. It doesn't cover their costs. And so basically that run doesn't happen anymore. That's the sort of thing the government should be saying, well, then we'll pay for it. We'll pay for that. They don't. I mean, so money. You put on organised events like that. I mean, if it's rowing, and rowing's a good example, because how on earth does someone get into rowing? I mean, there should be organised events that allow people to go down to. I mean, I live, I'm 5 minutes from the river here, so getting onto the Thames is easy for me. I say it's easy for me. It's easy for me because I've got kayaks in the garden. I can slap a kayak on my car, but most people don't have the ability to do that. There should be every weekend. There should be organised sessions where kids can go along and they can try kayaking, they can try rowing, they can try whatever. They can try open water swimming, whatever. They can do all that sort of stuff. I will go down to my river at the weekend to water dogs, and I will see no one doing anything. I will see, in fact, the most activity I'll see is in the summer is people having barbecues at the riverbank, stuffing themselves with rubbish. I won't see kids do it. And when I was a kid, we used to go to that same river and we do kayak lessons. So I learned to kayak as a kid on a course that doesn't happen anymore because I don't know why. Well, I don't know why. Money. There's not enough people wanting to do it to make enough money for the people putting those things on. So
Hmm.
government step in and have all those things. Yeah, it's all doable. But why would they bother? It doesn't move government's objectives forward, which is to stay in power. Having kids be in shape it's just having people be in shape. It's just not relevant to them. A good example at the moment, we've got the banning of laughing gas in the UK. So we've got kids everywhere doing laughing gas, and they're gonna ban it. And the reasons they've given for banning it, I was listening on the radio the other day. The three reasons. Well, one was the littering issue. So the laughing gas cancer, they're banning it because that. And again, that's a huge issue. Litter is a huge issue. But the idea that if something is littered, you ban its possession is insane. I mean, that just makes no sense whatsoever. If there's crisp packets everywhere, you wouldn't ban the possession of crisp. I mean, so that's a ridiculous reason. Then there's antisocial behavior and health implications. And you think, oh, hang on a minute, well, what are the numbers on this? The number of people dying from laughing gas are literally single digits. Go into any hospital up and down the country, any country in the world, and ask to see the people there because of alcohol, and you'll be there all day looking at hundreds of people. Thousands of people dying every day from coronary heart disease and cirrhosis of the liver and all the sort of things that come from drinking too much. And the antisocial behavior is through the roof. No one cares because it's making a ton of money. So it's very, very hard to see why governments that are quite happy for its population to slowly kill themselves, as long as it's making them some tax revenue, would really give two hoots about whether some kid goes and does a bit of kayaking at the weekend or sits on his PlayStation. I mean, so the solution's easy. You throw a ton of money at it. My kids played basketball when they were younger, and basketball in this country has no money. So, unless you've got a bit of money, and I could send my kids to basketball, unless you can afford to do that, just doesn't happen. I mean, it's just, it infuriates me. I'm very lucky in that I've always, because of the job I did previously, I've always been able to get my kids into anything they wanted. So if my kids said, I want to play basketball, you play basketball. They want to do, well, they've done all sorts of wakeboarding and kite surfing. They've done anything they want to have a go at. But that's incredibly unusual. Most kids are stuck with no opportunity to do anything. And it's an easy fix. You just make things available, and it's government backed or it's government funded. You pump the money into, and the communities already exist. There are local, football teams. There are people out there wanting to put stuff on for kids. But if the parents can't afford to pay, then they can't afford to run those sessions for the younger kids. So get some government support money into that. So it's easy solution. You pay enough money, and it will be fixed. I mean, it doesn't matter what you look at. COVID, the banking crisis before that. If there's a disaster on the horizon, you throw money at it and you fix it. It's solvable. The problem is that this isn't perceived as a problem until 150 years time, when there's no one left because we've all kind of eaten ourselves into oblivion. Then it's a problem. But by then, obviously, it's far too late. There's nothing you can do about it. So no. If I was, I'd be a terrible politician, because I would just kind of funnel money away from things that people think are important, and I would throw it all into fixing the problem that's coming down the pipeline that currently no one cares about. And it's not sugar tax. It's not, I mean, the things they do are just completely missing the point. Kids aren't overweight because sugar's cheap. I mean, that's just, a kid sat on his PlayStation eating crisp isn't doing that because sugar's cheap. He's doing that because he's got nothing to do other than sit on his PlayStation. I mean, what else can he do? I ate crisp when I was a kid. I wasn't fat because I was kayaking at the weekend, or I was playing football. doing any number of different things that I could go and do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my kids, I say, have been very lucky they could do that. But their friends who when they were younger, their friends whose parents didn't have quite the same resources, that those kids wouldn't be able to do any of the things that my kids did.
Mm-hmm.
They just wouldn't. And then they go, well, it's sugar's too cheap. What? Makes no difference. I mean, you can make sugar cost £1 million a gram. It makes no difference. The kid's still going to sit on his PlayStation.
Yeah.
But because what else can he do? There's nothing. I mean, it infuriates me. It's why I try and stay in my little bubble, because whenever someone like you says, stick your head outside of your bubble and look at what's going on in the world and see how you fix it, it just infuriates me. I mean, selfishly, and it's horribly selfish. It's handy because as a 50-year-old, I mean, to use the language of idiots on YouTube, I am crushing it. I'm compared to most 50-year-olds, I'm destroying all of them. My kids are above most kids because of the opportunity that they can have. And so selfishly, the worse everybody else is, the better you become by comparison. I mean, it makes my above average targets very, very simple indeed. And that's okay right now. The trouble is that society can't exist on the basis that if everyone else is really, really bad, then it's good for me. Because at some point it isn't good for you. But because at some stage I might need to go and get something done at hospital or something, and I can't get into the hospital because there's a queue out the door of people that are unhealthy. So it doesn't help me to live in a society where everybody else is beneath me to such an extent that it would be. I would rather it was incredibly hard to be above average because average was really good, than actually it's quite easy to be. And it makes my message on YouTube sound quite straightforward. Be better than most because most suck. I mean but the reality is, when I go to whatever A&E, as I had to recently with one of my kids who was ill in the middle of the night, and I go in there and it's full of drunks, I'm not looking around thinking, yay, great, I'm better than most of these losers. I'm thinking this is a nightmare. My kid can't get seen because there's 35 drunk people in the way. So yeah, it's annoying. But I don't see it. I don't see it fixable. You can fix bits of it. You can fix, if you run your own YouTube channel or your own rowing club or your own, whatever, people can take personal responsibility. They can get their own thing off the ground and they can get their own local community working and so on. But society as a whole, I see no sort of no. I mean, it sounds very kind of pessimistic, but no chance. I just don't see it. If we could jump forward 20 years, I think we've got whatever we've got now worse. As far as how health goes.
In terms of, so I know there are schemes, sort of like the lotto funding from the National Lottery and things like that. They're putting money into sort of sports and things like that. Do you think the responsibility should be sort of put into companies like Apple and Microsoft and Google or whatever it is, like sort of those huge companies with bottomless piles of cash, basically? Do you think they should be doing more to help support sports and promote sports in communities?
Well, my gut reaction, someone around their own business, is no. But just because Apple are very good at being Apple. I'm not sure how good Apple are at being organizers of local sporting events. What should happen is that those companies should be taxed properly, and then that tax revenue should be used properly, and that's the solution. Apple don't need to give any attention to local sports. They just need to carry on making trillions of pounds, but pay their tax. And then the government need to use that tax money and do sensible stuff with it, like put on local sports. It shouldn't be down to the lottery. I mean, the very notion that, I mean, the lottery, and it's that the lottery is done by just by the very nature of the lottery, It's done. People that enter it are the lower end of the kind of the economy. You don't typically have wealthy people buying lottery tickets. That's just not how it works. So the lottery is basically a huge number of people that don't have a huge amount of money, funding. The very notion that that's the way that stuff gets funded, it just makes no sense. Yeah, how are we going to get some money for this local football team? Let's ask people that haven't got very much money. Let's basically trick people that haven't got very much money, because the lottery is a trick. Anyone buying a lottery ticket to win a lottery. In fact, who buys a lottery ticket because of the funding? No one's buying a lottery ticket thinking this is good, it's going to help my local sports club. They're buying it because they want to win some money, and they won't, because statistically they won't. So they're being tricked. And basically, the lottery is let's trick a huge number of people that aren't quite smart enough to realize what we're doing into paying for things that we should be paying for in the first place. I mean, it's just nonsense. Again, this is why I'm not a politician. I'd cancel a lottery immediately. I'd apologize profusely to anyone that ever entered it and said, "I'm sorry, we tried to trick you with a government-backed casino scheme." What we are going to do, though, is we're going to go and tax Google a ton of money, and we're going to make sure that every kid that wants to go and play football or rugby or tennis or row or whatever can do so. And sugar can be as expensive or as cheap as it likes. We couldn't care less about sugar, because if kids are focused on health and fitness and sport and so on, they will get motivated to not eat rubbish. I mean, kids that are on sports teams and kids that are lucky enough to be in that world. When my kids were playing basketball at a reasonably high level, they weren't coming home from basketball and saying, "Can I now have a chocolate bar?" Because they understood health and fitness. They understood the implications of that. So sugar could have been the chocolate. I mean, if you're a 10-year-old, rather, chocolate is free because you're not buying it. Your parents are buying it. So the chocolate was there for free. They weren't eating it because actually playing basketball at a high level to them was important to them. So if you can make sport and health and fitness important to people, kids included, you don't need to worry about taxing junk food. You can have as many flipping kebab shops outside of school as you like. The kids aren't going to go and buy it because health and fitness is important to them. The problem, it's why I don't. Yeah, if Burger King open next door, that wouldn't be great for the street. But it wouldn't affect me. I won't go and buy more burgers because it's important to me that I don't. The problem is that you've got all these temptations, if you like, but they're not even temptations. They're just default options, because it's not like someone's tempted by McDonald's. McDonald's is just food to them, and they think no different of it. To me, it's a treat. It's a luxury because I understand the downside of it. But if there's no downside to it, because you're already 3-4 stone overweight and you don't do any sports, so it doesn't matter how slow you are anyway, and it doesn't matter if you get ill because the government will fix that, then a McDonald's isn't anything negative. It's just another meal you're having. You have to get people to a place where they regard food like that as a treat, or if they want to be extreme about it, so they just don't want to eat. Full stop. But I don't kind of buy into that. I'm happy to eat burgers occasionally, but I eat them understanding what they are relative to my own goals. But some of my goals are fitness based. If you have no fitness based goals, as I didn't at one stage in my life where my goals were only to work and earn money, I had no fitness based goals. So when I went and bought 3 or 4 burgers to eat in one go, there was no downside to it because it made me fat and unhealthy, but that wasn't a downside. My objective was to earn money, and I could do that fine, fat and unhealthy, and did. So you have to just get people. Yeah, you have to get people interested and excited and motivated about keeping themselves able to do things physically, and then everything else takes care of itself. I mean, it's not an awful lot of things that are banned today were freely available 100 years ago. They weren't done because people weren't in a place in their life where they wanted to go and do them. So yeah, I'd forget sugar tax, pointless. You need Google tax Google, use the money, put on things for kids to do that make kids interested in keeping themselves in shape, and then they won't buy the blooming sugar. I mean, it's just it amazes me how stupid some government policies are, or just how not stupid, but also just naive, and just this idea that we'll make it so expensive that I mean, it's ridiculous. The idea that you could make any food item so expensive that people will lose weight is just a nonsense. It's not smoking. It's not where you can say the problem is the chicken sandwich. That's the problem. We can deal with it because food is, everyone needs food. You can't. It's not even drinking. You have to let people eat, clearly. So you can't target food. It just doesn't work the way smoking did. You can tax people out of cigarettes. You can't tax people out of eating bad food, because if it's not sugar, it'll be something else. That there's ample opportunities for people to eat badly, no matter what you do. You need to get people excited about being or not excited, even just valuing being in shape. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, when I wake up in the morning, if I look in the mirror and think I'm not looking as good as I want, that is going to influence the decisions I make in terms of food. Here's a perfect example. What is it? It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm not eating yet. I'm doing fasted podcast. I'm going to eat later on. If I'd woken up and looked in the mirror and thought I'm looking lean and good, I'd have had breakfast, but I didn't. I thought I'm not looking as sharp as I like, so I don't have breakfast. So my eating decisions are directly linked to things that I'm interested in. If I look in the mirror and couldn't care less, I'm having breakfast.
Yeah.
And I'm having Cocoa Pops because I love them. I'm having 2 bowls and I'm sprinkling extra sugar on top. If there's nothing between me and 2 bowls of Cocoa Pops, why would I not eat the Cocoa Pops? There has to be something in the way. And the thing in the way isn't how much the blimmin' Cocoa Pops cost me to buy because of tax. The thing in the way is me looking in the mirror and having an understanding of what I want to be able to do and look like. And I've got a race tomorrow and I'm thinking, oh, if I eat too much, those are the things that are important to me. They're the things between me and the Cocoa Pops, my own objectives and goals and desires and so on, not the price of the Cocoa Pops. I mean, you couldn't make Cocoa. I mean, if Cocoa Pops were scientifically proven to get you in shape, I'm paying as much as I need. I mean, you simply can't tax people out of those decisions. You have to get people excited to want to make the right decision for themselves.
I guess we might as well sort of move on to our next topic, I guess, now. In terms of rowing, so you've had a little bit of experience rowing. Your first sort of time that I saw you do some rowing, you met up with Cam Buchan.
Yes.
And that was when you were doing your Steve Redgrave challenge initially. What were your experiences there, and how was that? And sort of, I guess, being welcomed into the rowing community a bit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a rowing imposter, really. So my rowing history is very, very simple. I used to work in a gym when I was a kid, 17, 18, and I used a rowing machine for the first time, just mucking about. I mean, I was in the gym, so I used it. And I was able to row sub 2K, sub 6 minute 2K, which is, if you don't row, is kind of it's quite quick.
In rowing, that's often called subby. That's like quite a big goal.
Yeah,
and a lot of the guys on my team as well. It's like if you've gone subby, you're in the top 5 guys in the team, usually top 5, 10 people. So
to me, it kind of feels like a sub 20-minute park run, or I don't know, like it's just like it was a thing.
It's a good goal.
I remember the first time I dunked a basketball. I remember thinking, okay, like I've achieved that. I'm now someone capable of dunking a basketball, and I'm someone capable of going under 6 minutes. But I did that with no training other than health and fitness, and I did it with no rowing ability other than able to sit on it and row. So I then went. What happened then? I was about 18. I went to Leander Rowing Club, which obviously famous rowing club in Henley. and said, "Yeah, I want to row, and I'm quite quick already." And they said, "Yeah, it's cool. You are quick." And they kind of showed me around. I can remember halfway through the little tour around Leander, they mentioned training at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I remember thinking, "Well, I'm not doing that. 5 o'clock in the morning, that's ridiculous." So I never did it. I just never rowed. And then I didn't row really until YouTube.
Yeah.
And actually that Steve Redgrave row, which was done last year, which was Can I Row as Fast as Steve Redgrave, that was the first time I'd really sat on a rower, and certainly the first time I'd done 2K in, I don't know how long, just in year, probably 20 years. I mean, I think it was something like over 20 years since I'd sat on a rowing machine, and I got on it. I did a 6:24, I think it was, which is still not, I mean, it's not a disastrous time for someone that's a non-rower, 40, 48, 49 years old. So my point is, I'm not a rower. I just happen to be big, 6'6", 220 pounds. So I just kind of fit on the machine quite well. But my technique was appalling. So I went to Cam and said, my technique's appalling. And he told me why. Much to the annoyance of rowers everywhere, I completely ignored him. And every time I row since, I mean, I can't, in my last video, I even put at the end of it, basically a sort of a warning to rowers saying, do not waste your time commenting on my technique, because I'm 50. I couldn't care less. I'm gonna row badly till the day I die. I'm still faster than most people. I couldn't care less. So stop telling me it's bad. So I'm not even a good rower. I mean, I'm literally a bad rower who happens to be fast by virtue of being tall. I mean, there is no skill to my rowing. It's as skillful as me getting, something off of a high shelf. I can do it, but I'm not, yay me. So I but equally, because I know that I'm quite competent at it, it works well on YouTube because it gives me a bit of credibility in the thing I'm talking about. I mean, I often do sports where I'm rubbish, and that's funny too. But it's nice occasionally on YouTube to say, hey, I can do some things okay. So that's kind of my rowing history, really, is I rowed quite quick, quite young, just through luck, and then didn't row at all, and then started rowing a bit on YouTube because it was something I could do. And to be fair, early on in my YouTube career, I was almost desperate to be able to do something that gave me some credibility. Now, I care slightly less about that because I have enough of an audience that they'll just watch. I could do anything stupid and they'll watch it anyway. But early on, I remember thinking, I feel like a bit of an imposter, but I know I can row okay. So let's do some rowing stuff. And it was, I mean, part of me, it's a tiny, tiny part of me, does think it would be quite interesting to get properly coached for a decent duration of time. And the trouble is with rowing, rowing strikes me as a sport very like swimming, where the training for it, and I swam when I was a kid as well, the training for it is quite monotonous. And you rowed properly, so that would be a fair description, I guess.
Yeah.
So for example, if I want to go and train for running, I can train quite seriously, but still go and run in the woods and put my podcast on and go out with the dog, and it just feels that and the same as cycling. It just feels that I can. There's more variety and enjoyment and fun in the core training. Whereas on the rowing machine, it's just pretty brutal. And even doing the events, you do a 2K row. It's brutal in a way that other sports aren't. For example, if I do a 19-minute 5K park run, it's taking me a lot longer than a 6-minute row or 6.5-minute row. But I don't finish, and I finish it exhausted. But I just finish it exhausted when I finish a 6K row, a 2K row, and I just feel run over. I mean, it is a brutal thing. So I don't enjoy the indoor training side of it. What would be interesting, and it's on my list to do, would be to row on a boat. I've never in my life been on a rowing boat.
It's funny you say that. I've actually been chatting to someone that I used to row with as well, and he's now at a club, and he's sort of coaching at a club as well. And we we sort of chatted about potentially giving you, he's a fan of the channel as well, and potentially giving you an opportunity to get involved with that if that's something you're interested in.
Absolutely. I have to, yes, I'd be very disappointed if I keeled over one day and I never sat on a rowing boat. I mean, part of me, occasionally you watch like American movies and you'll see when they do like an establishing shot of someone living near a river, there'll be like a little garden, a little single, what do you call a single, is it a skull or whatever?
Yeah, single skull, yeah.
Right. So you'll see a guy kind of like doing a single skull down the river, and there'll be a jogger kind of going along. And I think, well, that'd be quite nice. So I quite like the idea of kind of going along, you know, the mist on the river, because I like the river. I kayak for fun. But kayaking isn't kayaking. When I go kayaking, it's not exercise. Whereas I quite like the idea of going to the river with a little rowing boat and being able to do a kind of training session the way I might go down to the river and do a running session, like do some intervals and stuff, but do it in an environment that is 1,000 times more attractive than doing it in a gym. You know, I want to be rowing and watching, you know, kingfishers fly past, not be surrounded by other sweaty people in the gym. So yeah, it does appeal, the idea of doing real rowing, but it's just so it's never presented itself. And to be honest, if it wasn't for YouTube, it never would have presented it, because people like yourself wouldn't say to me, let's get you on a boat, if I was just some random useless 50-year-old saying I've never done it, so how can I? I mean, that's such an interesting one, because if I wasn't a YouTuber, how would I go rowing? I mean, that's it. You know, getting back to the kind of, you know, how do you get society sorted out? As a 50-something ex-basketball player, there isn't really the environment where I can go and play basketball. I mean, how daft is this? If you're American, you're probably thinking, what? You can do it everywhere. But what I can't do, and I've tried to, I can't play basketball as a 50-year-old. You know, I'd have to join like a local league, and it's all a bit kind of, I just want to be able to go on a Friday night and you know, shoot hoops for a couple of hours. That just doesn't exist. And that's part of my frustration. The rowing, I wouldn't even know where to start. And that's a pity as well, because actually, why aren't there people just going up and down the river, just kind of rowing for exercise? I mean, it looks fun. The only people I can tell you,
I could tell you pretty confidently why. It's expensive. A single skull, a top end one's costing you well over 10 grand, and a cheaper one's costing you at least 5 grand. For like an absolute bog standard, wouldn't consider taking it to a race kind of boat. And rowing fees as well. There's all sorts of licensing things and insurance and all that sort of thing as well.
Here's what you do. Here's Dragon's Den style. What there's no reason why, because you look at paddleboarding.
Yeah,
how the paddleboarding has taken off, hasn't it? Relatively speaking, considering no one paddleboarded a few years ago, and now every time I go down the river, there will be some doofus on a paddleboard. And paddleboarding is the dumbest thing ever. I mean, I've got one. So anyone throwing their hands, I have a race paddleboard, because I entered it once a year. And literally, this is how daft I am. Once a year, I do a local race that is a 5K run and a 1K paddleboard. So I went out and bought the fastest paddleboard I could find just to do that race every year. But paddleboarding in general is just stupid. You know, you see pumping up their thing, and then you have to stand up, and you I mean, it's just, I when I'm in my kayak, sat down with all my gear, and I just see people standing up on the paddleboard and think, what are you doing, you lemon? Now, rowing, I don't know why somebody can't invent a cheap, it doesn't need to be a race boat, but in fact, how hard can it be? Make it blow up if you like, and say at a decathlon. It must be possible to invent a really cheap rowing boat that I could go down to the river and use as a proper workout, because you can't work out. No one's working out on a paddleboard. Working out some issues maybe in their head. They're not I mean, there's no exercise. And kayaking doesn't lend itself to exercise in the same way, but rowing does. I mean, rowing's great exercise. I know that from doing it in the gym. I just want to be able to transfer it to a fun environment. So I want a rowing boat that I can somehow get in the car quite easily, or at least put on the roof of the car quite easily, like I can my kayak, and turn up at the river I don't want it to cost more than £1,000. And why should it? It's just something that floats and something that holds the oars, and then the oars. I mean, it shouldn't cost more than £1,000. It doesn't need to race. I don't need to be fast. I need to be able to replicate the movement that I do in the gym on the water. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
We need to invent. If I'll invent that this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure how, but that, and then people would go down, because it's
exactly, yeah.
You can go, you can allocate. The trouble with things like paddleboarding and kayaking is they're not things that you go and do for half an hour. It's kind of like an afternoon. You spend the afternoon there. I want to be able to go down to the river at 7 o'clock in the morning, do 45-minute session up and down on my newly invented rowing boat, and then back in the car and go to work. I want to have had a workout. I want to do that, and you can't really do that with kayaking. If I go kayaking, I'm loading the boat up with stuff, and I'm probably going with my wife. I'm probably taking with the dogs with me, and it's we're out for 5 or 6 hours. It's a different sort of thing. I want to be so yeah. So there you go. That's my plan for this afternoon, is to invent a rowing boat that's
well, I
cheap.
look forward to it.
I mean, I'm thinking it shouldn't be hard. Something that floats, hold the paddles steady, a chair to sit on. That doesn't need to cost £10,000. Doesn't need to cost £2,000.
The issue is there's not that much want for it. There's already sort of a few established brands. There's obviously, even in the gym, there's Concept 2 is pretty much the only rower that you're going to find in gyms.
But who wanted paddle boards before paddle boards?
That's a good point.
I mean, nobody wanted paddle boards. And in fact, even people that have paddle boards don't want paddle boards. Paddle boards only exist because guys in Hawaii, when there was no surf, couldn't surf. So they thought, oh, well, I'll stand up and paddle it around instead. That's the paddle board. Nobody in Hawaii was thinking, oh, this will work lovely on the Kennett and Avon Canal. I mean, that's just not. So the paddle board, I don't understand how the paddle board has become what it's become. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. But it does show that if you can market those things in a way that I mean, the exercise element is the one for rowing. The idea that you can go down to the river, do a 45 minute workout that is 10 times more fun than being sat on a Concept 2, but equal in terms of cardiovascular benefits and so on. That would work. We get Redgrave on board to kind of promote it and so on. It's taken off.
I like it.
I'm designing it in my head as we speak.
Yeah, I guess in terms of that sort of idea and getting people into the sport and making it more accessible as well. How if someone says, okay, I want to go to the river and I want to get fit, how do we then teach them to row? Do you think, because in all of there's a famine of rowing content on the internet. There's not a huge amount of stuff teaching you, okay, sit in the boat and pull the handles. There's quite a lot more to it than that, and it might seem very simple, but I mean, if we do end up getting you in a boat, I'm sure you'll discover, but it's quite a niche and quite a technical based sport, and it might seem it's just pull as hard as you can, but there can be a lot of intricacies and things like that. So if for example you went and got like Eddie Hall, and a huge strong bodybuilder, he's probably not going to be able to do, because I believe, or is it Brian Shaw? I think it's Brian Shaw that's got the 100-meter record.
Yeah, 12.5.
If you chucked him in a boat, I doubt he'd get that same record on the water.
No, it'd probably sink for a start. I mean, Eddie Hall's quite funny, because when Eddie Hall rows, he doesn't use his legs at all. He just hinges from the hip. He's basically just doing a kind of like a stiff leg deadlift on the thing, and still rowing at like 103, 104 splits. I mean, it's bizarre to watch. It's interesting because the problem with rowing, or the rowing perception, and obviously everyone must understand that rowing is just seen, it's like tennis. It's just seen as posh.
Yeah.
In fact, it's worse than tennis because if I wanted to do tennis, and I didn't worry about the fact that it was a bit posh. I could go and find a tennis court quite easily and just have a go. But rowing is just the only way that anyone, and this is me speaking, but I'm kind of speaking for just Joe Blogs. The way people think you get into rowing is you go to university, posh one ideally, and you row while you're there. And if you're really good, when you come out, you carry on rowing, and that's how you become a rower. That's it. There's no other way into it than that. And also, why do you row? Well, you row to enter competitions and race and be good. So the only people that actually should even bother giving it any thought are basically 6'6" rich white guys. So if that isn't you, don't bother. I mean, which is why it didn't really appeal to me when I was a kid, because I just didn't feel part of that kind of world. Ironically, I'm now a 6'6" rich white guy, but I'm too old. It's too late. So you need to make a bit like running. If running was only, and forget the posh part for a second, but if running or cycling, if the only reason really you did it was to enter races and do well in races, nobody would run. But 99% of runners couldn't care less about races. They're literally just using it for fitness. So the first thing that rowing has to do is stop presenting itself as a competitive sport or solely as a competitive sport, because actually no one cares about that part of it anyway, outside of rowing. People go, no, they do. Name a rower. Redgrave. Okay, and now I'm stuck. And if you know the name of another rower, it'll be because you saw them on Dancing with Stars or something. Rowing isn't, as you know, it's not a huge spectator sport outside of rowing. So you've got to start presenting it as a means of just keeping fit and keeping in shape and having fun, the way running is and the way cycling is and the way tennis is, to be fair. Plenty of people go and play tennis just casually for fun. But it wouldn't even occur to me to get into rowing. And the only one of my children that ever got close to rowing was the one that was huge and massive and could have potentially been really, really good. If one of the others had said to me, who wasn't 6'8", I want to row, I'd have said to them, well, do you really? You never. Why? You're not going to make the Olympics, so why bother? I mean, literally, the one of my kids that did row for a bit, the only reason we kind of pushed him was because I thought potentially you could end up being world class. Otherwise, we wouldn't have bothered. Yeah, if one of my kids came to me and said, I fancy starting running, any tips? I'd be talking about how to go running. I wouldn't be talking to them about, well, really, you're not Kenyan. Is it really worth doing? I mean, that's how nuts it is. So people need to understand you don't need to be huge to row. You don't need to be perceiving it as something you want to do competitively. You just need to be able to think it's fun and healthy and fit. I mean, I'm almost struggling to think how, with its current setup, you do bring people in just to do it for fun. Ironically, if rowing stopped worrying or focusing so heavily on the competitive side, competition side, and just kind of built up a real kind of fitness feel to the sport, it would help its competitive side massively, because people would watch the rowing because they row the same as people that, for example, I run. I'm not an Olympic runner, but I have an interest in what Kipchoge is doing in the marathon because I do it too at the other end of the scale. That isn't happening with rowing. People, 99% of people watching rowing on TV, if they ever do, haven't ever been in a rowing boat. They probably haven't even sat on a, they might have sat on a concept too in the gym once and thought that was rubbish and did go on it again. So yeah, I mean, it really does need, and I can't think of, maybe because I'm now obsessed with the idea, I can't think of any way of doing it other than having cheap, easy rowing machines that the people can use. People don't perceive rowing in the gym as being the same as what the guys on the boats are doing. And that's because they don't understand how those guys are training.
Mhm.
Interestingly, if they knew how much time Olympic rowers are spending on a concept two,
Yeah.
they might have more of an interest in using a concept two, but that isn't how Joe Bloggs sees the rowing machine. They think it's just a piece of gym gear. So there isn't that link to rowing. You've really got to have some means of people getting on the water with no expectation of ever being any good,
Mhm.
but knowing they're going to get a cool workout. That's
Yeah.
what you have to give people. And paddleboarding shows it can be done. No one's paddleboarding to be the paddleboarding champion, if that's even a championship that exists. I've got no idea. But no one's doing it for that. They're doing it because it's fun and it's fit and it's healthy and it's outdoorsy, all those things. The trouble with it is it's slow and boring and stupid. And actually, a rowing, even this cheap one that I'm inventing as we go, would still be faster than most other things on the river that are self-powered. You knock together. I mean, the ability to, the power you generate when you use a concept machine. You look at the wattage you're generating. Those are numbers you couldn't possibly generate in a paddleboard environment unless you were some sort of dragon boat expert or something. So you'd whiz along. I mean, it's it's. I'm now thinking of the dangers of all these people kind of flying down the river backwards. We might need to have mirrors on this boat, so people can see where they're going. But yeah, it needs to do that. It needs to stop presenting, or not stop presenting itself, but it needs to understand that competitive sport is for a very, very tiny number of people. Tiny number. I mean, the vast majority. Even you go to like park run, the majority of people doing the vast majority of people doing park run will heavily emphasize that it's not a race and you're not there. And so while there's someone like me turns up at park run and thinks, no, it is a race. I'm going to go as fast as I can. I'm wrong. They're the ones that are right. The majority of people are just doing it for enjoyment, for fitness, for health. They couldn't care less about their time, really, or certainly many of them don't care about their time. They just want to have fun, and rowing is just the other side of that. I mean, rowing is literally, don't even bother if you're not going to be in the Olympics. Why do you even start?
And that was that was something I was talking with Jack last week. He said when he was starting out rowing, so there's a program called GB Start. I think Cam was involved with that as well. But they basically say you're someone that's 6'5", you're this weight, come and do rowing, and if you're not, then leave. And that's something that Jack had problems with.
Well, absolutely. I mean, my son that rowed, he was. What happened with him? So he was at school, and at his school, his PE teacher, he would have been. Oh, how old would he have been? This was just before COVID. So what's that now? 3 years ago. He's now not. So he'd have been 15 years old. So at 15, he was 6'6". He was basically my size. He was skinny because he was only a kid. His PE teacher knew someone at Leander and said you kind of basically put them together. And he went to Leander and they said, yeah, no, awesome. We'll train you and basically whatever you need, we'll give you. And I mean, this is a good example. No money. It's not going to cost you anything because it's obviously Leander is funded by members of the rowing club, and that money gets funneled into your kid. He didn't pursue it because he just didn't. It just wasn't for him. And as you know, if you're going to do a sport to a high level, it's got to be for you. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So he was just more interested in kind of girls and being an idiot. So he went off to just be an idiot and just muck about the weekends instead. But had he wanted to do it, had he kind of gone with the flow, he would have had every opportunity to get very, very, very good. But the only reason he had that is because he could get very, very good. And that's bonkers. If the only way in is by being this kind of 0.0001% of the population in physical size, how can you ever broaden your sort of I suppose your spectator base, but also the just number of people doing it, which leads to more spectators. So it's got to get away from that. It's got to promote itself as a thing you can do just genuinely to be fit.
Yeah.
I mean, if I lived a little bit nearer to the river, I would genuinely be looking into getting a rowing boat to do for fitness. But that's only because when you say to me a great boat's 10 grand, I think awesome. I love cool gadgets.
Yeah.
And clearly, I'm incredibly lucky to be able to think that. Most people think, are you nuts? I could buy a car. I could buy a couple of cars for that.
Yeah.
And also, I understand rowing, and I understand its health and fitness benefits. I am not the person that rowing needs to be targeting. They need to be targeting the person that doesn't have £10,000 to spend on a toy, isn't 6'6", and wouldn't give rowing a thought otherwise. That's the person you need to tap into. The same as they don't need to chase. Well, I'll say they don't need to chase my son. They did if they want just Olympic medals. But actually, if you just want a ton of people doing the sport, you've got to chase everybody. Yeah. And then the sport just becomes something very different to what it is at the moment. I mean, it is. I can't think of a posher sport, to use the term in a kind of the daftest sense. Lacrosse or something, mate, or polo. Actually, polo. There you go, because horses are probably more expensive than boats. It's almost up there. I mean, polo is probably worse. But it's that sort of sport that you just wouldn't even think to do. Yeah. And unless you are not only in a position of privilege to be exposed to that world, but even then, you've then still got to be physically ticking those boxes as well. I mean, you are really looking for such a small number of people. So for rowing to then go, oh, it's weird, no one does it. Yeah. Well, no, because your filter system is narrowing down the numbers to almost nobody. And for example, in my kid's school, my kid was in the 5 years he was at that secondary school, he was the biggest kid in that school. The fittest, he was the most elite athlete of his size in that school for the entire time he was there. That's a school with 1,500 kids in it. Got one kid rowing says, oh, him. Yeah. Forget the other 1,499. Couldn't care less. We want that one kid. And if he hadn't been at that school, it'd be no, we want none of you. Yeah, that isn't. You can't grow a sport by just writing off everybody, unless you are happy to just continue being a sport that's perceived as being a posh one, done by a very small number of people, not watched by that many people, and you just hope that you get. Well, I mean, the only way rowing becomes popular is it has someone that can spend 20 years picking up gold medals every single time, and that's a once in a blue moon event. I mean, a Redgrave is, in fact, a Redgrave is probably even impossible to happen nowadays. I would imagine. I don't know what you're the expert on this, but I would imagine that someone that could do what he did for the length of time he did it, nowadays I would have thought would get
that's tough. Not nearly as likely.
No, and you look at photographs of Redgrave in his last event, his last race, his last Olympics. You don't need to be a sports scientist to think, okay, there might be more elite athletes than that guy at that point in time in today's kind of world. So you're not going to get another Redgrave ever, and no one's personality comes out in rowing. It's not like a sport where, like tennis, people can get a bit excited in tennis because every now and again you get an athlete the personality comes through and people get excited about that. No one knows what the personality of a rowers is like. I mean, they don't exist in that world. So very, very hard to just rely on your top tier people. Much easier to Yeah, I imagine that there are the company that make and sell paddle boards probably for 15 quid each being knocked up in China somewhere. Those guys are probably laughing at the amount of money they're making compared to the guys that are selling, whatever, one rowing boat every couple of months or whatever to some elite athlete. And the target audience for paddle boards appears to be, I mean, from my experience of wandering down the river occasionally, it appears to be just kind of school mums that have decided that, on their rather than having coffee, lunch, or kind of Tupperware parties, that they're going to go and buy a paddleboard. I mean, they're the least, and marvelous that they're doing that, and it's absolutely superb. But when you think, oh, we're going to invent a new sport, who's our target audience? They aren't the people you think you'd go after, and yet actually they're exactly who you should go after, because there's been millions of them. So rowing. I love the idea of rowing for the masses. I just think you got to go
broaden
after
the
the
horizon.
masses. I mean, you can't kind of scratch your head as to why you haven't got kind of Joe Blogs doing your sport when actually you don't want Joe Blogs to do your sport. You want these kind of freaky people to do it. It's it just doesn't work. It's like in this country, basketball in this country. If you aren't really, really unusual and really, really, really good, which often means big, you're not going to do it. There's no motivation to do it. Whereas over in America, everybody just does it because it's routinely available. And then what happens is you end up getting kids that just kind of shine and come through, that wouldn't have come through from a system that just kind of picked and plucked the best. Because there are kids that aren't going to be 6'7", 6'8", but it doesn't matter. They still end up being elite, but you wouldn't find them otherwise. It doesn't mean you're going to find elite rowers that are 5'4", but you might find someone that happily does the sport and gets into it and watches it, and then your funding issues go away, because once once someone knows they can organize a local rowing club with cheap, simple kit, then they will do. At the moment, you'd be nuts to think you're going to start in the way that you can do with kids and kayaking. You can go and buy 20 cheap plastic kayaks and you can put on a kid's kayak course. You can't do that with rowing. I mean, as you say yourself, it's just impossible.
I guess to sort of stop prolonging the podcast too long, are you happy to move on to the Q&A side of the?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. I guess we'll start off with this one. It's a bit of a jokey one. It's from Hydrox Fitness.
Right.
Donut-sized boat or boat-sized donut?
My gut reaction is a donut the size of a boat. The only trouble is I'm assuming that's going to go off at some stage. So I don't share my donuts. So that seems like a waste. So actually, for the purposes of YouTube content, I'm going to go with a boat the size of a boat the size of a donut. That's impractical, isn't it? There you go. That the Hyrox sums them up. They're idiots. They don't know what we're talking about. Daft question. Move on.
This one's from Charlie Chiro. Best footwear for running / Hyrox?
Wow, it's an interesting one. I say interesting. It's an interesting one to me. It's the most tedious question on the planet to most people. The problem with Hyrox is that you have 8 kilometers of running to do, which is a fair old way, and it's the bulk of the event. But you also have a bunch of exercises to do, like jumping on a rowing machine and doing lunges and doing wall balls and so on. And so what I do is I wear Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, which is a super shoe, a stacked super shoe with a carbon sole, the kind of thing that's all the rage at the moment. It means I can run fast. The downside is they are wobbly. So I compromise my stations. If you are a new runner to that event, you are better off using a very, very bog standard. Whatever you'd go and do a park run in, wear that until you are very comfortable with not falling over doing lunges and so on. But if you're quick already and you know what you're doing, then yeah, bottom line is it's a running event. Wear a shoe that's fast to run in.
This next question from Doc Allen. This ties in quite well with what we were speaking about last week as well, but also what we were talking about just now. Would you say you're more goal-driven or enjoyment-driven?
I'm not goal-driven. I'm not sure I'm enjoyment-driven. I'm habit-driven, and I try to be habit-driven because very simply, if you have good habits and no goals, you're fine.
Yeah.
If you have goals and no habits, you're a mess. I'm not a big fan of goals. My problem with goals, and this is for me, if it works for you, then cool. For me, I find the problem with goals is that I work up to them, and then having achieved them or not, what next? And I end up with real dips in motivation and focus that come after a goal. A habit you can never conclude. The habit doesn't end; it just carries on being a habit forever. So I'm all about doing things on a regular basis, routinely. If you enjoy it, marvelous. If it's just a habit, that's cool too. I'm not a big fan of goals. I see a lot of people get very stressed and I mean the High Rocks social media forums at the moment, with everyone stressed about tomorrow's race in Birmingham, is just full of people panicking and worrying, but because it becomes such a thing in their mind, why? I'm not a big fan of that. If you're Usain Bolt and you're going to make a fortune by having a goal, cool, that's fine. But actually, most regular people, something I do a lot. What would my dog do? We spoke earlier about what would Tom Cruise do.
Yeah.
The two people I often default to is Tom Cruise and my dog. My dog runs every day, eats well every day, has fun every day, and is a happy dog. My dog has no goals. No dog on earth, in fact, no animal apart from daft humans has any goals. It doesn't need them. You don't need goals to be happy. And in fact, until recently, people didn't have goals. They just had wake up, go to work, just live your life. So I like to look at people say, oh, be a beast, go beast mode. Actually, go and find a beast that's got a goal that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Just do what you do to stay fit and well, and then just enjoy yourself. I don't need goals.
Sure. This next one from Cole Runs a Bit. What do you do to push past family judgment? I don't know if that's something that you've experienced, but
yeah, I'm a very, very bad person to ask the question because I couldn't care less about family judgment. So what I do to push past it, I don't push past it. It doesn't exist for me. I could not care less. Yeah. So there you go. I'm not. Yeah. I mean, some people go, "Oh, yeah, my whatever. My mum said this. My wife said that, or what." Actually, my wife would be a different one. If I had issues with, if my wife was disagreeing with what I was doing, we lived together. That's very relevant. We would sort that out somehow.
Yeah.
But what my kids think, what my auntie thinks, couldn't care less. I mean, hopefully they're happy with what I do. But if they're not, why would I care?
Sure. I guess this one's very relevant at the moment, just looking out the window now even. This is from Joshua Ornamond. Sorry if I've butchered your name there. How do you cope with weather when you're training?
I'm not. I don't. I mean, I don't. It doesn't really faze me. I mean, I love running in the summer because it's sunny and it's beautiful. But yeah, it was raining yesterday, I went for a run, and I just went for a run in the rain. I mean, I suppose if you live somewhere, sometimes I answer these questions and people go, "Well, it's easy for you. I live in whatever Greenland, and it's 6 foot of snow every day." I mean, obviously, if the weather is so bad that it's preventing me from getting out the door, it would be an issue. But in the UK, we basically just have kind of boring grey weather most of the time, and then some sunshine. I'm not. The one thing that weather's not an issue. Dark. I don't like the dark. I find it when you get into the winter in the UK, it's dark at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And so 8, 9 p.m., I don't want to go for a run because it feels like it's been nighttime for hours. Whereas in the summer, 8 o'clock in the evening is still beautiful. So I don't know. The dark is a bigger issue for me. The weather, I don't care.
Sure. This next one, another bit of a jokey one, from QZ. Can you grow a mohawk?
Could I? Yes. But why would I want to? I mean, weird. I tend to. In fact, my hair at the moment is incredibly long. It's going to get shaved in a bit actually for racing tomorrow. So yeah, I suppose I technically could grow a mohawk, but I don't think I'd want to.
Um,
Is he suggesting I should?
Potentially, I'm not quite sure what the direction was behind that question. I've had there's a couple about sort of marathons and ultra marathons. One question here saying you've not done any. You've done ultras but no road marathons, and another saying, would you consider doing an ultra marathon? Is that something on your radar at all?
I've done so. I've never run a road marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a half marathon, and the reason for that is it's just not interested. I mean, I don't. The problem I have is my weight and my size means I'm not built for distance running. So up to a half marathon, even a half marathon's getting on a bit. I mean, really 10K is my favorite kind of distance, and 10K is not much of a distance. So up to 10K, I'm above average. Half marathon, excuse me, half marathon's okay. Running for a whole marathon, which for me would be, I don't even know how long it would take me, somewhere between 3.5 hours and 4 hours, I guess. My half marathon time was 1 hour 35-ish, I think. It would just bore me. And I would be annoyed that my body would be starting to struggle because of how heavy I am. Now, people then say, well, hang on a minute, you've run ultra marathons. But the thing with an ultra marathon is a different thing. Yeah, when you run a marathon, you are, if you're trying to do it the way I would want to do it, you're running to a set pace and you're trying to hold that pace, and it's a very kind of consistent and focused event. Even though it's for 3 or 4 hours, it's the same thing over and over. An ultra marathon isn't that. An ultra marathon for me, I appreciate some guys run ultra marathons the way I'm describing that. They'll run it in the same way. But I don't run an ultra marathon like that. I run an ultra marathon like I want to look at the views and the scenery. I love running through woods, and I want to, up a hill, I'll walk. Down a hill, I'll sprint. It's more of completion of an event. So I have this kind of weird gap between half marathon and then 50K. I don't 50K and up, I'm fine because it's just it's a bit like going from a kayaking. It's just a day out. Yeah. And up to half marathon, it's a race. Anything between those two, it's too far for me to race, and it's too short for me to just go and enjoy. For example, I could go and run a marathon and just do it in 6 hours and just say, hey, I enjoyed that. But to me, that isn't how I would want to run a marathon. If you do a 7-hour marathon, great, enjoy it. For me, it's short enough that I know I should be sticking on my Nike, Alpha Flies and crushing it, and I wouldn't enjoy it. So no, I'm probably never going to run a road marathon ever.
I've got a couple questions from the Brunch and Dragons here. They're both sort of linked in together. So are saunas impactful for training and recovery? And then alongside that, what's your favorite way to recover?
Well, yes, and sauna is the answer to those two. I have my own sauna, and I love it. I mean, is it impactful for training and recovery? Some of the science, there's a lot of science actually. It does say there are cardiovascular benefits to using sauna. Now, they aren't quite what sauna manufacturers will tell you, which is a load of lies and nonsense. They'll basically suggest you can sit in the sauna and you come out, 20 pounds lighter. So they aren't quite that, but they are good. I mean, for example, what I'll often do is maybe a zone 2 bike ride indoors for an hour. And then I'll then come straight off the bike. I'll then go and spend 45 minutes in the sauna, and my heart rate will stay elevated, but I'm not doing anything. So I'm getting there is some cardiovascular stuff going on, but it's not muscle. It's not muscle draining, if that makes sense. It's also very good to do my stretching in there because it warms my body up. I mean, I like it. It's also great for my mental health. I can just sit in the sauna and just kind of unwind. It's almost like you just lie on a beach in the sun and you're just kind of lying there and you're hot and you just chill. For me, the sauna is getting close to that. And it's therefore it's my favorite way. Now, if I had to go to a gym and use a sauna next to some, big sweaty bloke, there might not be my favorite means of recovery, but because I'm lucky enough to have my own, I can just go and sit in it. It's a 2-person sauna. Me and Jen sitting there and just chill, and it's I like it a lot. I say I'm lucky enough to have it. It's all about, to a certain extent, it's just about priorities. It's an expensive bit of kit, but it's you know, lots of people watching my channel will have holidays or bicycles or just, you know, spend on their own hobbies way more than I ever spent on my sauna. So when you actually think, hang on a minute, I'm probably getting about 4.5, 5 hours a week in that thing. I have a bicycle, for example, it costs more than my sauna. That bicycle, probably in the winter, is probably going to get, I don't know, 3 hours use total. So actually, where my money goes, I'm quite happy to spend if I'm going to be spending some time on it. It's a bit like I'm chairs. I spent a lot of money on my desk setup. People are, wow, you know, £1,000 standing desk that goes up and down with buttons, and but I'm here for 8 hours a day sometimes. So why wouldn't I put some money into this? So I'd be sensible where I prioritize things. Sauna for me, I would always have one, unless I, if I was flat broke, it might not be the first thing I'd go and buy. But if affordability allowed, absolutely.
And I've got one final question here, actually from last week's guest, Jack Burns. Would you ever commit to a full 2K program? So a program designed to sort of help you beat your 2K PB?
No. Excuse me. Excuse me. No, only because the number one reason is it'd be boring. It's boring. It's as simple as that. Number two, if I did it, let's say I got my 2K time from 6:24, which is what it was last year, and it's probably still around there. If I got that down to, let's say, 6:15, let's just imagine. So what? So what? What do I do with that? I've got one of the things I've got very good at doing, and I'm getting increasingly aggressive about doing, is as I get older, making sure that I am using the time I have left on Earth as efficiently as possible. To me, life, it's like going to a theme park, and there's all these rides you can do, but it's going to shut at 5 p.m. And it's now, for me, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got 2 hours left. What am I going to go on? And that example is someone saying, hey, go on the teacup ride. I'm like, well, I could do, but there's a roller coaster over there. I've got to prioritize. So for me, it just doesn't give me enough in return, because all it would give me is boredom, discomfort, and then a 10-second faster row time that still isn't going to be elite. I'm not going to, I can't do anything with it. So no is the answer to the question. It just doesn't hold enough appeal unless someone came up with, someone said to me, we'll give you 20 grand if you can get 6:15. I'll get 6:15. I will. But because suddenly there's a purpose to it. The trouble with me and rowing is that I find it hard to see a purpose in the habit of rowing at the moment, because I do the high rock stuff, which includes a 1K row. I see the value in doing short duration, intense rows for that. But beyond that, I don't see a value. Interestingly, if I had my little cheap rowing boat that I've got to yet invent, I would see the value, the therapeutic value, along with everything else, in going down the river and using it. So I would see that. But yeah, just sitting in a gym and just blasting away for a goal that isn't really that interesting to me. And also for YouTube, I quite like being quick but not crazy quick. Because it gives me a nice balance of credibility without being unrelatable. A lot of people can row sub 7, and so they see me rowing 30, 40 seconds quicker. They understand what that is. They understand how fast that is. But equally, it's not it's not. I'm not going like I'm doing a 5:48 or something, and they can't get their head around it.
Yeah.
And in fact, we did a rowing challenge recently, and a couple of guys beat me, which is perfect. I mean, that's great. I'm not on YouTube to be the best. I need to be good enough that I'm credible. The example I often use is Top Gear. You know, Jeremy Clarkson was a good driver of cars by virtue of the fact that he spent 30 years driving cars all the time. He wasn't a racing driver. Didn't need to be. People weren't watching Top Gear because he was a racing driver. Equally, if he crashed every time he drove one, people would probably think this is a bit stupid.
Yeah.
So I need to be the Jeremy Clarkson of fitness. I need to be quite good at it, but equally very happy to kind of bow down to genuinely good people at the same time. And also it's more entertaining as well. I mean, people don't want to see me. There's enough people already on the internet saying I'm a marvelous person. Look at me doing this marvelously. That there's no shortage of that. So I don't. That's not what I need to try and do. So if he was offering to train me, thanks but no thanks.
Well, it was great speaking to you. Thank you for all your comments, and I look forward to seeing your designs for a new rowing boat in the future.
Yes, the Lewis Mobile.
The Lewis Mobile.
I've probably got to come up with a better name for it than that, but that's the working title is the Lewis Mobile. Yeah,
I'd get it trademarked up before someone steals that.
Yes. Well, if anybody is an expert in I don't know how you build boats, but whatever is required to build boats, then get in touch and we'll make it happen, potentially.
Yeah, and thank you for sort of opening my eyes into sort of a few new ideas about rowing as well, my own sport. So yeah, thanks very much for coming on, and thanks for listening, anyone that's listening and watching the YouTube video online. And hopefully we'll potentially talk again soon about getting you in a boat potentially.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, and I definitely look forward to going in a boat. I mean, it is absolutely. I don't want to be. I have no goal to be good in a boat, but I do have a goal to at least say that I sat in one for long enough to look like I could have rowed. If I get in it and fall out immediately, I might need to have a few more bashes at it than that. I don't need to be able to say I'm a rower, but I don't want if my total rowing experiences got in, fell out, that might not be good either.
Well, thanks very much, and I hope to see you rowing around on your local river very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.